going on, everybody? The MMA Roundtable is back. It's September 24th, 2013, and we got a lot to talk about since we've been away the last couple months. Bunch of news stories, a couple belts changing hands. Anthony Pettis, the new lightweight champion. BJ Penn coming back to 145. We had a dog fight at UFC 165 just last weekend. We're definitely going to talk about that. Let's do it, gentlemen. Thanks so much for tuning in to the MMA Roundtable, the 38th edition of the MMA Roundtable, by far the longest stretch between shows, between the 37th and 38th Roundtable, due mostly to yours truly moving across country from Florida to Colorado and all the fun stuff that was attached to that. But I'm really excited to be back. Like I said just a few minutes ago, I'm even more excited to chat MMA with the three beautiful men on the line with us. It is Ray from MMA Mental, Jay, and P Money on the line. First and foremost, Ray, what's going on the last couple months? How are you doing? How is MMA doing? And where can we find MMA Mental if you want to be a true MMA mentalist?
Things are going really well, thanks. Yeah, I've had a busy couple of months. Continuing with the podcast, doing lots of big interviews. Spoke to quite a few of the UFC guys that be fighting on the Manchester card. Of course, that's a big card in the UK that a lot of the UK fans are excited for. We've got a new regular segment on the show with Tough 18's David Grant. He comes on each week and breaks down the latest Tough episode, which is pretty cool. Always nice to get a little bit of inside information. Follow us on Twitter at MMA Mental, and then also check out our Facebook page, MMAmental.com. And that's it really. But it's been good. It's always good to chat with these people. It's good to kind of get our network, grow our network as well.
Yeah, you know, and I'll get bored and you know, look on the YouTubes, the World Star Hip Hops, and look for, you know, cool, interesting videos. Honestly, I've started going to MMA Mental because I like watching MMA videos. You know, after a fight, I'll watch all the post-fight interviews that Helwani does and all of that. And this is, you know, very similar. It's cool hearing, you know, what current MMA fighters have got to say about their careers and their current going-ons in MMA. So definitely check out MMAmental.com. We also have Jay, who I definitely have been in correspondence with through my move. I got a beautiful birthday card about a month ago that featured me being, or a stick figure drawing of me being sodomized by Alistair Overeem, which was very, very touching. Jay, how are you doing? Twitter, you know, any plugs you want to get out there before we get off here?
I don't think I got any plugs, but thanks for the shout out on the card. That was a great laugh right now. We don't have Chris on to explain that. I'm sure there's something going on behind the scenes. No plugs, but yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. I know you guys could be playing GTA like myself, but yeah, just thanks for taking some time out to listen to us talk crap.
Yeah, I've been playing way too much of that game. It's quite addictive. And last but certainly not least, he himself moved to. It's none other than Pimpin' P Money Murda. Patrick, what's going on, brother?
Oh, just chilling, Jake. Real good to be chatting with you and Ray and Jay again. It's been some time, but we're back with full force. Got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Just want to shout out, as always, the MMA podcast, MMA Mental, and the Word on the Street for the boy Ramses. And follow your boy P Money. It's Sweet Pappy Jones.
Yeah, follow the Word on the Street on Twitter at the Aunt Jimmy Show, along with the Final Round at Roz Finkelstein. And using my psychic powers, and definitely not the Skype chat we have going, I'm predicting that, Ray, do you have one more plug you want to get in there?
Yeah, I should nominate myself for Bonehead of the Week for missing this out, really. But yeah, I've put together a really strong UK panel called the MMA Mental Roundtable, and we basically get together on the week of UFC events and we break down the UFC main card and also any UK fighters that are competing on the card as well. And that panel is myself, professional MMA journalist Brad Wharton, who also works for Cage Warriors, your MMA journalist Jay Finesse, he's also a professional featherweight fighter as well, I think he's something like 11-2, and one of the losses is to Andy Ogle by decision. And UFC middleweight Luke Barnett. So it's definitely worth checking that out as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely a small world. You have Luke Barnett on, and our buddy Ramses has a show that's probably at the epicenter of Team Darkside and all the fans involved there. Shout out to everyone who is a part of that circle. It'd literally take me 5 minutes to give everyone shout outs. But we're going to have a get-together in Vegas. If you can make it out to 167, the Team Darkside get-together, it's going to be beautiful. And like I mentioned, this is the first show we've done since July. A lot of stuff has happened, and probably the biggest thing that has gone down since we've been gone. And I came close to finding the audio clip of "Since We've Been Gone." But you know what? This is not a pop music podcast, and you have me here to impersonate whoever did that. It was like Miley Cyrus or Britney Spears or Kelly Clarkson.
I think it was Hannah Montana.
Yeah. All right. That was good enough. Probably the biggest news since we've been gone is that Anthony Pettis, the new lightweight champion, defeating Benson Henderson in his second shot. He's now 2-0 against the former lightweight champion. Took his WEC belt. Now the man took his UFC belt. And it was a very, very, very incredible fight. I mean, Bindo looked good for the first stretch, but then Pettis just started throwing these body kicks. And we've seen the kicking game of Pettis, but the fact that he landed one, and you could tell it hurt him, and Benson put his arms down to start blocking, and even when he was blocking him, I think he threw like 4 in a row. All 4 of them hurt him. Benson tried getting into the guard, and Anthony Pettis has an awesome guard. My guard is an awesome guard, Benson, and he locked up the submission. I think it appeared that his arm was really, really injured, but I guess the damage wasn't that extensive. But nonetheless, Anthony Pettis, the new lightweight champion. Before we talk about his future, what do you guys think of the actual fight at UFC 164, the main event? Ray, how shocked were you when it was very climactic and anticlimactic at the same time, because obviously a sub is huge, but there was no obvious tap. Pettis just sort of let go, and Bindo walked away, and Herb was there waving his hands, waving off the fight, and everyone's kind of sitting there like, wait, what? Pettis just subbed Bindo? Are you kidding me? What did you think of the fight, Ray?
Yeah, the first word I was going to use, or first term, was anticlimactic. I mean, it was brilliant. It was Anthony Pettis looked phenomenal. We've seen what he can do, and he is a fantastic fighter. There's no doubt. But I think we were more expecting a fight like their first fight, and we probably all simply wanted to see him run up the side of the occasion just because it was so epic. But just a back and forth fight. I mean, I picked Pettis to win. I think they're both brilliant, but it's one of those things where I felt Pettis had his number after the first fight, and Pettis had looked good going into that fight. There's no way I picked Pettis to win by submission. I mean, if anyone saw the fight, which I know I had the pleasure of being introduced to by Jake and Chris Lowe, of course, one of our podcast buddies, between Cerrone and Henderson. I mean, Henderson's arm was fully extended so many times, and he just rolled through like it was nothing. So that's where he got the nickname, part of his nickname, Bendo. But I don't know, the 1 minute it wasn't on, the next minute it was on, and because he didn't tap, because he verbally submitted, and you obviously couldn't hear that, we didn't know what was going on at first. But props to Pettis. It was absolutely amazing. It was just an amazing way to finish the fight, and it was done so quickly as well. I mean, I think the fight lasted something like 2.5 minutes, which I don't think anyone expected. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I was sorry, I was just really quickly going to throw in, it was kind of crazy on the same card, UFC 164, a couple months ago, if you asked me who was the hardest guy to KO, who was the hardest guy to submit, I might say hardest guy to KO, Clay Guida, hardest guy to submit, Benson Henderson, and Guida got TKO'd, Bindo got subbed. It was an unreal card.
Yes, completely stacked. The fight was insane. I think you're right about the anticlimactic thing, but I think the UFC, most of the fans for sure, they've kind of gotten fed up with Benson Henderson as a champion. He's not the most popular guy out there. His style of fighting doesn't win over many fans. In terms of pay-per-view buys, he really isn't all that good, but then neither is Aldo and neither is Edgar, so none of those three are really that good for either of those divisions. But Pettis, he's a very exciting fighter. He's very explosive, and he comes in there and wins bonuses. And, you can easily sell a fight when a guy is good enough to, promote the fight himself. And when you look at his highlight reel, you're thinking that guy just looks incredible. It's hard to do that with Benson. It will be so easy with Pettis.
Yeah, definitely agreed, Jay. Pettis is just a breath of fresh air at the lightweight division. It's great to see just a crazy striker like him. It's great to see mixed martial arts just continue to evolve, especially with guys like Showtime in the cage. We saw it against Donald Cerrone, his jumping off the cage, flying knee to the face. I mean, they had both just evolved so much since their first fight. But going in there, like Ray, I had picked Anthony Pettis to win that one by decision as well. But I just said, Anthony Pettis looked like he had just evolved just that much more. His game was just a little bit more unpredictable. You can't predict his jumping off the cage attacks, his capoeira attacks, just the variety that he throws. Whereas Benson Henderson, I felt his game has become more refined, yet still just a little predictable. And, Anthony Pettis, he looked amazing. And, it's going to be great with all the matchups that are in store for him.
Yeah, it was a really odd change going from the WEC into the UFC. Before losing to Anthony Pettis the first time, Bendo had won 4 of his last 5 fights by finish, 3 of them by guillotine choke, was known as, one of the WEC's most exciting fighters, if not their most exciting fighter. And then he came in the UFC after losing, to Pettis on that final WEC card. And, yeah, he did win 7 straight fights, but he won every single one of them via the judge's nod, 4 of the 7 being 5-round fights. And he was sort of getting that rap that GSP did along, as far as being a boring fighter. And I think a lot of people sort of didn't like Benson because they thought the second Frankie Edgar fight, especially in the Gilbert fight, maybe not should have gone his way. On top of that, he's very preachy, very religious, and that is another thing that sort of ruffles people's feathers. So it's a combination of a bunch of things, but nonetheless, he's no longer the champion, losing to Pettis in the first round via armbar. So now the spotlight goes from Benson to Pettis, and we already know who his next fight's going to be. I guess Pettis had a knee injury during UFC 164, but it's not a serious one. And at UFC on Fox 9, that's going to be December 14th in Sacramento. That card's going to be headlined by the lightweight champion Anthony Pettis, looking to defend his belt for the first time against Josh Thompson, who that name kind of came out of nowhere. What do you think about them choosing Thompson as the first lightweight to fight Pettis as champion, and what do you think of the actual fight? Do you think Josh has a chance? He'll surely be a huge underdog in Vegas.
I think we've got to point out that the only reason this fight has gone to Thompson is because TJ Grant is still injured.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say if Grant was not injured, Grant would be getting this fight after his last few unbelievable performances. But Thompson's got this fight similar in a way, really, is the way Pettis has got this fight, because he's come out, he's exciting, and he's finished fights. I mean, Thompson was put in there against a guy that's known not to be finished. We talked there about Clay Guida about not being knocked out. Nate Diaz is up there on that list, same as Nick Diaz. And what Thompson did, he actually got a Diaz to throw a towel in. So, Thompson's earned this fight, and also Thompson's fights with Melendez were extremely close. I also want to say as well, I've always enjoyed watching Henderson fight. I'm a fan of Henderson, Benson Henderson. I like watching Henderson fight. I think his fight with Clay Guida and his fight with Jim Miller, yeah, they were decisions, but he smashed those two opponents, and they were both tough guys. I mean, he didn't just eke out a decision, he dominated those fights. And don't forget, Clay Guida beat Anthony Pettis when Anthony Pettis came to the UFC as well. So Clay Guida's no joke, and obviously Jim Miller's always been known to be durable. He had some close fights with Frankie Edgar and Gilbert Melendez, and maybe they weren't the best fights. Especially being 5 rounds, there's nothing worse than a close, like a 5-round decision where they're kind of cancelling each other out, which is to a degree what happened with those other 2 fights. But, saying that, I do like Henderson. If I had a choice to watch a Henderson fight or a Pettis fight, I'm going to choose Pettis because his striking is it's on another level. His striking is ridiculous. The power he throws, he looks huge for lightweight as well. But Pettis Thompson, it's a phenomenal fight. Both guys are capable of finishing. They're both great strikers. I don't know who's more well-rounded because Thompson's well-rounded as well. I mean, we've seen Thompson in the UFC before, obviously, and obviously MMA in Strikeforce he was big as well. I mean, Pettis is going to be the favourite, but Thompson's no joke, and he's going to push him to the limit. It's going to be another amazing fight. I mean, how can you not be excited for the Pettis-Thompson fight?
You say it's a weird matchup. I mean, the entire division is now in a weird position. I mean, you've got Melendez, you've got TJ Grant, you've got now you've got Josh Thompson coming through the ranks. All of these guys, to fair weather fans, they don't have a clue who any of these guys is. My housemate's been watching MMA for the last 2 years. They still don't recognise the name TJ Grant, but they recognise other names. They know Gilbert Melendez and things like that. Gilbert Melendez is still, because of his Strikeforce days, I'm not sure how much marketability he's also got, but Josh Thompson is exactly in the same boat as TJ Grant. It's another really risky matchup for the UFC. Just because this guy hasn't had that much promotion. He comes out and beats the Diaz brother, but Nate Diaz lost a lot of his marketability in that loss to Benson Henderson, and you also had Nick Diaz. The Diaz brothers were over when Josh Thompson came in. It's a weird situation. The fight is going to be insane, though, as this is the best fighter Pettis has fought since probably Jeremy Stevens, and that fight wasn't too entertaining. It's going to be fun. Both guys have really increased their game, and they're really stepping it up right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how Pettis prepares for the well-roundedness of Thompson, and I think Thompson's going to be able to neutralise some of the kicks. He's a veteran of the sport, man. He got knocked out by Eve Edwards back in the old days. If he knows how to take a head kick, it was back then, running across the cage with his back to someone. He's not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Pettis versus Thompson, that'll be a sick fight. I don't necessarily like how he's getting thrown in there, being, 1-0 in the past however many years. I mean, I want to say last fought in the UFC back in 2004 before the Nate Diaz fight, but I mean, that was an amazing fight. It was a very impressive showing. Catapulted him immediately into the title rankings, and I guess it does make sense with the TJ Grant injury. Definitely would have preferred to see TJ Grant in there instead. And the only thing that gives me pause with Anthony Pettis is that aforementioned loss to Clay Guida. It's still suspect at this point. But yeah, it's going to be a good fight, and Thompson, he's going to be able to hang in there. I mean, he's got very versatile kicks, a very versatile skill set, just like Anthony Pettis, and he does have that veteran experience on his side. So, I mean, heck, we could be seeing that lightweight strap change hands pretty quick here.
Yeah, I definitely think Thompson, he's a gritty fighter. I mean, look, just as recent as his last loss against Gilbert, that was a fight that could have gone either way, and we know Gilbert's game. Looking at the current, title picture, a lot of guys who are green and up and coming, notably Rafael Dos Anjos and Khabib Nurmagomedov, who are coming off wins against Donald Cerrone and Pat Healy. These are guys that I think the UFC are being smart as far as not, throwing too quickly into a title shot and all that. They're both probably a win or two away from getting that shot. And after Grant, I mean, I guess Thompson makes the most sense. You have Gilbert and Benson. I don't know if you give, you obviously don't give Ben a rematch after being finished in the first round, and Gilbert was the last person to get a title shot before that. So even if he does beat Diego Sanchez, he still, I mean, I would love to see Gilbert against, Dos Anjos or Nurmagomedov. Those both would be amazing fights. And that sort of gets into the last thing I want to talk about Pettis before we move on. How long is he going to reign? Patrick, you were saying, the belt might be changing hands, and that's normal. We've sort of gotten used to these dynasty champions and Aldo and St. Pierre and Anderson, even though his reign ended recently, and Jones, and now Barao, Mighty Mouse. A lot of these guys now are getting multiple defenses, which is weird because usually you'll see a title change hands, like the 205 strap did for a few years between Chuck and John Jones. But simply put, how long will Anthony Pettis be the lightweight champion? Even though I just sort of made a point against my opinion, I think we're seeing another long-time champ. I think Pettis, just the way he's dispatched guys like, Donald Cerrone and Joe Lauzon, he's looked really impressive. The Guida thing, I'll go ahead and write off to Octagon jitters. You have a lot of guys coming over from Strikeforce or the WEC who their first fight in the Octagon just isn't impressive. Even really, great fighters like Cormier, even though he won, he didn't look like his normal self. So I'll go ahead and write the Guida fight off. Honestly, I think if Pettis and Guida fight 10 times, Pettis wins 9 of them. That fight sort of goes in my list of, fights like, how did they win alongside, like Wandy and Bisping? But, yeah, I think Pettis, I think this is a champion we're going to see multiple title defenses out of. What do you guys think?
I'm not too sure. This division is so stacked, and I mean, I know Jay will know this, but lightweight's probably my favourite division. There's just so many guys in there that I enjoy watching fight. And we talked there about Thompson. TJ Grant has looked phenomenal, and I've said this line before as well, and this really shows us why Thompson's got the fight. It's not necessarily the wins you've got; it's how you win. Rafael Deanios beat Cerrone, but who watched that fight and got, bloody hell, that was brilliant. Khabib has looked good, to be fair, in his fights, and his win over Healy was impressive. RDA Cerrone fight is going to be one of those forgettable fights because it just wasn't a great fight. You mentioned there about Henderson. Henderson's wins sometimes can be a bit dull. Thompson's come in there and he's knocked someone out who's never been knocked out before. So therefore, all of a sudden, Thompson is someone that's put in the title picture. TJ Grant come in and he smashed through Gray Maynard. And we've never seen Gray Maynard struggle like that. The only time we've ever seen him get knocked out was against Frank Edgar, and that was in round 5. Grant beat him in like 3 minutes, like it was nothing. And this is Maynard, who's been to war and fought for the title on numerous occasions. For me, the big question for Pettis, I mean, Thompson and Grant are both going to be predominantly striker v striker. But my big question for Pettis is the wrestling. Because we've seen him against Clay Guida. I know you're saying about the octagon nerves, but we've still seen that. And then there's still quite a few guys that like to wrestle in there. So if Gray Maynard works his way back to the top, for me, he's going to be a threat. Obviously, Guida's gone down to featherweight now, and to be fair, Guida's gone from being a top contender at lightweight to being a nothing at featherweight after his fights against Mendes, and even his win over the Japanese fighter. My name's skipping. Even his win weren't impressive against the Japanese guy, who he struggled to win. I mean, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. So yeah, for me, it's going to be the wrestlers. That's where, for me, his biggest hole is. So when he comes up against a big wrestler, that's going to be his biggest test, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think wrestlers probably going to be the sort of person to be able to do it. But looking at the division, the wrestlers really are starting to get put behind. Melendez, he probably has the best shot out of everybody. I can't look over the TJ Grant and just remember how unsuccessful he was at a welterweight. Yes, he might have dropped down, and yes, he's a different guy, but he's still, Almeida was able to out-grapple him. his grappling has improved in recent bouts, but when you put him in a bout against Pettis will probably be able to defend the takedowns. Melendez is probably his only real competition at this point. I think, as Ray said, with Khabib and RDA, they are on the horizon. I think Cerrone in that fight, he really, as he said himself, he didn't know who RDA was. He just accepted the fight. I think he probably did a bit of research on him and thought he'd be able to catch him in his regular stuff. It didn't work. Right now, the division seems like it's going in a direction whereby most of the people at the lightweight are dropping down to featherweight. So we're kind of at this weird point in the lightweight where it's really not as stacked as it used to be. But I think he can hold on to it until we get a breakthrough, until we got a guy like Michael Chandler come over to the UFC, who really has not had any trouble. Khabib might be able to do that, but right now, I'm not really looking at the division thinking there's many people who can dethrone him, except for maybe Melendez.
Yeah, that's a good call, Jay. Melendez is definitely a super huge test for Pettis if he does retain the belt for that long. I think Thompson's a super huge test himself. Again, veteran experience, got that good skill set, durable guy. If he's healthy, he can go the distance. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And speaking of everybody moving divisions, that's also the interesting thing with TJ Grant. Of course, we talked about before, he's coming down, but just the physical aspect of his frame, it's I almost liken it to Damian Maia coming down from 185 to 170. When he showed up at 185, he was looking spectacular and submitting everybody in just incredibly dynamic fashion. And then he kind of got away from it. Now that he's back down to 170, he's grappling people up that we never would have thought. Look at what he did to John Fitch. I mean, no one really said, "Oh, he's gonna wrap John Fitch up like a Christmas gift." And that's exactly what he did, and that's kind of what TJ Grant is doing down at 155. I mean, he's built like a brick shit house, and that Muay Thai he's been working on in Thailand is looking really good. So I'm not sleeping on him either. A lot of tough tests for Pettis.
Definitely, and you're talking about weight changes, which is a beautiful transition to the next topic. One of the biggest news stories since we've been gone. BJ Penn, he's not going to be moving down one weight class. He's going to be moving down 2 weight classes. His last fight at welterweight against Rory McDonald, even though we know him mostly as a lightweight, he had spent his last few fights up at welterweight taking on guys like Matt Hughes, John Fitch, Nick Diaz, and Rory McDonald. News came out just about a few weeks ago that BJ Penn was returning from his hiatus, retirement, whatever you want to call it. He was returning. Not only was he returning to be a coach on The Ultimate Fighter opposite Frankie Edgar, the man who took his belt at UFC 112 and defended it at UFC 117 in the rematch. And it's going to be at 145 pounds. All of this, huge news. Each bit on their own would be pretty big news. BJ Penn coming back. BJ Penn moving to 145. Him fighting Frankie. Him being a tough coach. Definitely took everyone a step back. Like, whoa. I guess originally they were looking to slate Frankie Edgar and Uriah Faber as the tough 19 coaches. But Faber didn't want to move up to 145, and Edgar didn't want to move down to 135 because they both liked where they were in their respective divisions. So Dana didn't want to make a catchweight fight. So Penn out of nowhere texts him, asks for a fight against Benson just so he can fight Frankie. And Dana says, "You know what? How about I just give you the fight against Frankie?" And this season of Tough's going to probably start filming beginning of next year. year. It's going to come on the air April of next year. We'll probably see the fight summer 2014. What do you guys make of all of this news? You know, them fighting, Penn cutting to 145, probably the most notable bit of all this. You know, he spent a majority of his career at 155 and then moved up. Now moving to 145, a lot of people aren't sure if he can make it. We know he moved up to 170 partly because he hates the cut to 155. From what I'm hearing, he currently weighs 165. It's a lot to take in. Jay, what do you say?
Oh, yeah, well, you said it best. It was a lot of news stories all at once. Cutting's going to be an issue, man. He hasn't looked motivated to train in his recent fight, so how he's going to be motivated to diet, cut weight, train, come in there ready to fight again. I mean, yes, it's an opponent he wants to fight, but I remember him saying he wanted to fight Rory. I remember he's getting in the face of Rory McDonald. I remember when everybody thought that we finally had a BJ Penn had been fired back since that Nick Diaz loss, but I don't know. I just mentally think that BJ Penn has been out of the game for a while. I'm liking the fact that he's coming back. I'm liking the fact he's dropping weight. But why is he dropping so much weight? I have no idea. It is crazy to me. I would have loved to have seen Faber, Edgar at 140. I don't like either of them, but I do like that fight stylistically. I mean, I'm sure we'll mention it at some stage, but those alpha male boys are 14-0 since Dwayne Ludwig became head coach, which is always exciting to see. I'd rather have seen them both fight at 140 and see if Faber could finish off everything that Edgar has built himself up to be.
Yeah, this news with BJ Penn going down to 145, I can't believe it until I see pictures of a test cut. It's just so insane for those of us who have been following the sport for so many years since BJ Penn was a champion and at the top of his game. Just him going down to 145, that's kind of mind-blowing in and of itself. It's just hard to grasp. I don't know. It's an interesting match, him going against Frankie Edgar. I think I'm one of the few people that actually think that Frankie Edgar beat him both times. I know a lot of people think BJ won at least one of those fights. But it's just an odd move, and he's going to train with Aldo. I guess I don't get the point. I suppose it's a necessity at this point for him to even stay relevant because he realizes all the guys who are beating him up at 170 are now dropping down to 155. So he's got to make that cut down to 145 if he even wants to stay relevant. Because, I mean, heck, 155 is getting deep these days. And, who knows how well BJ would do. I mean, I want to believe in the cat. He's a multiple division champion and a true pound-for-pound legend in the sport, but he just hasn't looked in it for some time now. So this is just a really interesting move.
I think it's a good move. I think for me, I've always said, and again, we've talked about this many times. We've talked about BJ Penn many a time, and I've always said a BJ Penn at welterweight is an unmotivated BJ Penn. You know, this is a guy who can't be bothered to cut down to 155. That's why he fights at welterweight. You know, he looks out of shape at welterweight. He gets tired at welterweight. He clearly gets oversized by his opponents. I mean, Diaz beat him because of his reach and obviously his cardio. McDonald was always going to be too strong with his grappling. I think we all knew that going into the fight because McDonald is an absolute beast. He's a prodigy, and he must outweigh Penn by so much with the weight cut. If Penn is motivated to get down to 145, I think he's a real threat, and I think we'll see a different fight. I mean, Patrick talked about the last two fights about people felt that Edgar won one of them. Penn won one of them. The first fight was really close, and people thought that Edgar didn't win, but the second fight was clearly Edgar. Edgar had improved in the time, and Edgar beat him quite comfortably the second time. I mean, it was such a dominant performance. You know, that one wasn't controversial at all. Yeah, I think the other thing we've got to look at as well, we talk about motivation. BJ Penn's going after history in this fight. If BJ Penn can drop down to featherweight and win the featherweight title, which is what he'll be working towards, he'll be the first fighter in the UFC history to hold 3 bouts at 3 weight classes. That'll be lightweight, welterweight, and then featherweight. So if he's motivated, he's a threat. If ever he wants to fight at welterweight again, they should just tell him no. You're not. He's not relevant at welterweight because he's not strong enough to compete at welterweight. But Penn at featherweight, that I'll be honest, that does excite me. And let's also, the other thing I was going to say as well, if people talk about seasons of tough, I think whenever people talk about the best seasons of tough, I think one of the toughs that always jumps to mind is tough season 5, which of course had the likes of Diaz and Lauzon and Cole Miller and Gray Maynard. It was a fantastic season. But the coaches that year, of course, were Jens Pulver and BJ Penn. So the thought of seeing BJ Penn coaching on tough again for me, I can't wait.
Definitely, yeah. It's going to be a very exciting season of Tough. Actually, our next topic is this new season of Tough with Ronda Rousey and Misha Tate as coaches. We'll get to that in 1 second. But first, I want to talk about the stylistic matchup, Penn versus Edgar, in a fight that definitely has title implications at featherweight. Honestly, I think there's the possibility of this being a title eliminator match, and I know now featherweight is pretty clogged up, but Mendez is gonna fight Lentz at UFC on Fox 9, likely win. We might see Lamas fight Aldo early 2014 is what I'm hearing through the grapevine. If all that, settles up, we might see, Mendez fight Swanson, Aldo, if he can get past Lamas, things will definitely be a lot clearer by the time Penn and Edgar fight summer 2014. And, the winner of the fight's definitely going to be in a good spot as far as a title shot goes. What do you think of the actual fight as far as I see it? I definitely will admit I'm looking at the fight through rose-colored glasses. I'm a huge Penn fan. Penn and Sonnen are my two favorite fighters of all time. So, looking at the fight, honestly, Penn, has showed a lot of weakness in his stand-up against guys like Rory and Nick Diaz, and we know Frank to have just spectacular footwork. Penn can't come in flat. Penn can't come in that guy he was in the last couple fights, or else Frankie is just gonna work him the entire fight with great speed, both foot speed and hand speed. But one thing I've noticed on Frankie's part, the last, I guess it's been 3 years since he fought Penn those couple times, he gets hurt in every fight, usually in the first or second round, which is not a good thing. We talked about it on the MMA podcast. Ross Finkelstein, Twitter at Ross Finkelstein, E before the L, cocksuckers. He made a very good point in that you can't confuse chin and heart. And even though Frankie Edgar has a tremendous amount of heart, his chin is questionable, and he gets rocked a lot, and he gets hurt a lot. And Penn is, Penn is definitely a finisher. Penn is not one of these guys who will hurt you, drop you, and not finish the fight. And I think a lot of fighters make the mistake against Frank of trying to finish the fight with strikes. If Penn drops you, he's not going to try and finish it with strikes. He's going to leap on your back and strangle you. And I think that might be a technique that could, endanger Frankie if he does get hurt, does get dropped. I think it's going to be an amazing fight. Both of these guys, especially Penn at lower weights, are known to be in wars, and I think we're going to see a war.
I don't even know how to top that off. I want to see BJ pull it off. I wish he would jump on the back, but I really can't see it happening. This is the thing that I'm going through at the moment, is how is he gonna, he's not gonna have the power. If he couldn't finish him off at 155, and he could barely land at 155, he's really gonna struggle when Edgar's gonna have speed on him. Yes, it's a different Edgar now. His game plan seems to involve getting punched a lot. I mean, even Charles Oliveira was able to land strikes on him. But I think BJ Penn's gonna have a lot, he's gonna be concentrating a lot on other things, the motivation is going to be driven on the dieting and the weight cutting, and he's not going to be thinking so much about how to beat him as he is how he's going to cut the weight. I don't see this being a nice fight for him. I really wish he can pull it off, and man, if he can finish him in that first round, I'd be going nuts. BJ Penn versus Aldo, you'd finally have an Aldo fight that would sell. Yeah, I really hope BJ can pull it off, but I think Edgar picks him off even easier than he ever has, and Edgar's going to look on fire as a result of that, kind of like Nick Diaz did.
I would be one of the first people to want to see BJ Penn become a 3-division champion. I just want to see somebody do it. To be honest, I don't even really care who does it. I just love seeing records being made, records being broken, stuff like that. Plus, again, BJ Penn just being a legend in the sport, it'd be great to see him make a comeback like that, a good career turnaround, and get back to title contention in any weight class. Having said that, much like Jay alluded to, BJ couldn't beat Frankie back in the day. How's he going to beat him now? Frankie Edgar, he just went the distance with Jose Aldo in a very close fight. He made that fight super close. I mean, heck, I'm pretty sure we could find some people who think Frankie won that fight, and I mean, hell, hard to disagree. That fight was just insane. So Frankie, he's still in it. Yeah, he did get hurt pretty good in the Oliveira fight. Oliveira, though, he's one of the tallest, lankiest guys in the division. He's a slick competitor himself. But yeah, this is just going to be tough for BJ. I'd love to see him pull it out, but I just don't see it happening.
I'm with you, Jake. I'm jumping on the BJ Penn bandwagon. You talked there about Edgar Aldo and Aldo going the different distance. Everyone goes the distance with Aldo. Aldo's gone from being this explosive finisher who blasts through opponents to being the GSP of the featherweight division. You know, an Aldo fight is he'll win the first 3 rounds, he'll look a bit tired in the 4th, and he'll be hanging on, breathing out of his arse in the 5th. I mean, we've seen it against Mark Hominick, we've seen it against Frank Edgar, we've seen it, Kenny Florian dropped him in the 5th, if I remember rightly, or took him down anyway. So we've seen it against Kenny Florian. You know, Aldo, whether he's finding the cut hard, I don't know, but Aldo does not look the same guy. The only guy he's really smashed through, ironically, at featherweight is probably, on paper, his toughest opponent, which was Chad Mendes, and he obviously caught him with a knee. But yeah, I think Penn can do it. I think if Penn's willing to cut to featherweight, then he's motivated, and a motivated Penn is dangerous. And I also think if Penn beats Edgar, I'd be picking him to beat Aldo as well, just because Aldo is one of these guys that ekes out decisions. Penn's a finisher, and if he jumps on his back, he jumps on anyone's back, he's going to get a finish. So yeah, I'm picking Penn to get the win. I don't know if he'll get the finish ever again, but I certainly think he'll beat Edgar.
Penn Aldo, yeah. If we see Penn get by Frankie Edgar, I think we all can agree that means Penn is back to championship form. And a championship form Penn against Aldo, that would be a hell of a fight. And Patrick, you know what? I proclaimed it a few weeks ago on the MMA podcast, and I'm gonna proclaim it now. BJ Penn will become the first and only man to ever win the UFC championship in 3 different divisions. It's gonna happen. But let's move on. Speaking of champions, the current women's bantamweight champion, Ronda Rousey, alongside Miesha Tate, are the coaches on the new season of The Ultimate Fighter. And that's groundbreaking. What's also groundbreaking is for the first time we're seeing women also compete on The Ultimate Fighter. 8 women and 8 men trying to get spots in the UFC. We're sort of seeing the co-ed side of The Ultimate Fighter for the first time, which at times is funny. It's definitely kind of interesting to see men and women play off each other as opposed to just men. A lot of times though, it gets really annoying. I think the guy Anthony Gutierrez, who's the guy seems like he's in high school. The way he's talking about this girl and that girl and blah blah blah. I don't want to talk to her because she doesn't want to talk to me. That stuff gets a little over the top. But you know what? The last season of Tough 17 with Jones and Sonnen, they sort of did a new style, a new documentary style, where whenever they interview fighters, it gives this weird lighting effect on their pupils. But yeah, it's definitely, I don't know if they they've moved over to Fox, and it's been a little bit different, but it's definitely been a fun season of The Ultimate Fighter. We've seen 2 fights so far. Chris Holdsworth beat Chris Beal, and in the first one we saw a shocker. Juliana Pena defeats maybe the most the veteran of the house and an early favorite in Shayna Baszler. Pena winning by submission, I think, in the second round. What do you guys think of this current season of Tough? P. Money Murda?
I love this current season of Tough. I'm actually watching this season. I love just the fact that they're going to new weight classes. And of course, they've never done a female version of Tough, so that's a whole new gender of talent to skim the talent pool, if you will.
You getting the wife in it, because you have women coaches and female contestant. You try and draw her in.
You know what? I do think I was able to con her into watching the season debut. I don't know if we've watched any since then. I've been trying to get her into the female MMA more since the UFC has included it into its ranks. But she likes MMA as much as the next chick. But as for myself, yeah, this new season, it's good. I'm liking it. I like the documentary style that they introduced last season. I'm glad that they kept it for this season. The fights are good. I love them seeing talent in for the 135-pound men and women's division. It's so sorely needed. I mean, I guarantee at least half the women's cast is going to be signed to the UFC anyhow. Hopefully there's a couple good bantamweight prospects on the men's side. Yeah, great season so far. Just sucks they moved it from FX when they were getting those super ratings. This could have even topped last season.
Yeah, I'm with you, Patrick. I'm loving this season as well. I'm one of these that loves every season of Tough. I mean, people talk about Tough 16 being a boring season. I enjoyed Tough 16. I've always loved the Tough format. But yeah, this is a brilliant season. You talked there about the shock of Shayna Baszler and Julia Pena, and it was shocking because, I mean, you listen to the way Shayna talked going into that fight. I mean, there's no way she was going to lose, but it was a bold move by Ronda picking a number 1 pick against Misha's number 1 pick, and it backfired because they all underestimated Julia Pena, and it was a fantastic fight. But I think even in the prelims, the fights to get into the house, I mean, we previously spoke to Tara LaRosa. She's a big name on the MMA scene, and I think a lot of people thought she'd make it into the house, and of course she didn't. There was a few shocks even going in, but obviously the Baszler fight was a shocker. Chris Holdsworth looked great in his fight. We're going to talk about Ronda in a minute. We're going to do that separately, Jake.
Yes, we will.
Okay. I'll leave my comments for the coaches in a minute then. So yeah, but so far, brilliant season. I love it. Oh, and if you're enjoying the season, of course, what I like about the season as well is there's a couple of Brits in the house. And being the way I am, I always love to root for the Brits. I was rooting for Laura Howarth, of course, but she lost. But one of the Brits is doing a regular slot on my show, David Grant. I've already mentioned it at the start. So he's great. He comes on the show and he gives us all the behind the scenes gossip, gives us his views on what's going on, talks about the fights and the different things going on in the coaches. So it's great to chat with him. But so if you're really enjoying Tough 18, check that segment out as well on my podcast.
Man, this season's been interesting so far. I won't say it's been my favourite. Maybe we've still got a while to go. The UFC are really trying to up the whole documentary easy to follow sort of feel, and I don't know, it hasn't really worked with me because for somebody who's done media a lot, I've noticed that some people have got next to no airtime. I mean, you've got Roxanne, Louis Facette, Juliana, Cody, Anthony. These people have all got a lot of airtime. I mean, you've seen Roxanne a lot. She gave the card to Anthony. Cody Bollinger, I think it is. He looks like Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel from The Simpsons. But then you've got other guys, like as Ray said, David Grant, Josh Hill was the favourite going into it. And the girl who's fighting this week, Jessica Rakoczy. All those 3 people, how much airtime have they had? Maybe about 5 seconds an episode. To me, it's becoming a bit obvious these guys don't get through, and the ones who are getting through, we've seen a lot of them. I don't know, it feels a lot more obvious than previous seasons, and for me, I'm not a fan of that. But yes, it has been enjoyable. I can't wait to see Cody lose. I really am not liking Cody, and I don't know, it's enjoyable. The coaches are something else, though.
Yeah, unless I'm mistaken, I think you accidentally referred to the two wrong people. I think the card thing, I think that was Juliana Pena writing to Chris Holdsworth, not Roxanne de Bollinger. But yeah, definitely certain people have gotten a lot of time. And they spent a good 10 minutes on this, just like the last episode. The stupid he said, she said of, oh, you told the other team what fights we wanted, and then it turns out, oh, I just made that up because I don't like this chick. Like, it gets very high schoolish at times, but definitely my favorite moment of the entire season. They didn't give it any context at all, didn't talk about it before or afterwards, but when Holdsworth beat Beal, you see Team Tate leap up and they're jumping in the air celebrating, and the nutritionist on Team Tate jumps up and screams at the top of his lungs, "That's why I don't eat biscuits for breakfast." That was one of my favorite moments of Tough, just because it was so completely random without context. But Ray, you did allude to it. One of probably the thing people are talking about most on The Ultimate Fighter is, they're definitely playing it up as Miesha Tate sort of being the good guy and Ronda being the bad guy and the instigator. And especially, we last episode had a quick moment where one of Rousey's teammates came and got in Brian Caraway's face for the comments Caraway made in 2012 about wanting to knock the teeth down Ronda Rousey's throat, which is very gentlemanly. We've gotten into it before. I said some horrible things on the MMA podcast a couple weeks ago that I'm not going to even broach here. Definitely go back and listen to it, though, if you want to hear it. But simply put, is Ronda Rousey crazy? In my response to that, a little. I do like seeing her getting really emotional over her team. When her people lose and she tears up and gets emotional, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's a dedicated coach, and I really like seeing it, and I really respect it because it shows you that Ronda's emotionally invested in her team. But then on the flip side, when she's saying I'm gonna make her wish she never smiled in her entire life, I'm gonna make her take back every smile. It's just whoa, chick, cool your jets a little bit. Which I, even though I'm definitely rooting for Team Rousey and Ronda Rousey during the rematch at UFC 168, I thought that was kind of a funny quip back. Dude, I'm friends with Shayna too. I'm smiling because my team won. Chill out. So, is Ronda crazy? I think crazy is the wrong word. I just call it unbalanced. But you know what? To want to fight. To be that pretty and to want to fight for your career, you got to be a little unbalanced, I guess. P-Money?
Jake, I wouldn't call it crazy, unbalanced maybe. I prefer to say she's got a chip on her shoulder. She may be a little off kilter, but that is a chick with some drive. She's got some gumption. I could have sworn I seen on one of the countdown shows that she was actually a mute or something to that effect until she was 6 years old. I don't want to be putting out a bunch of untruthitude here, but I could have sworn it was something to that effect. But, having overcome an early adversity like that, that'll give some people some unnormal or some uncommon drive, I should say. And I think Ronda Rousey, she's just got a bit of that. And I think that could potentially not having spoken for an early part of her life. Again, I don't even know if that's completely accurate. I want to say it was something to that effect, though. But again, something like that will just oftentimes give someone an uncommon drive, especially with her parents and their athletic accomplishments. So I don't think she's crazy. I think she's got that fire in her.
Fiery.
I tell you what, at the minute though, she's certainly. I think at the moment, Misha Tate's coming off of the nicer of the two. I know what you're saying about being crazy and stuff, but the things like when she was saying about her laughing at the loss of Shayna, when obviously she was happy because the fighter won. At the end of the day, that fight, that was a bad pick by Ronda Rousey. You don't pick your number one person against the number one person. You get them the best fights they can to get them through. So that was a bad matchup by Ronda. She should have gone for Shayna versus number 3 or number 4 pick. That's just common sense. Ronda screwed up there. Let's say how it is. Ronda screwed up. She let Shayna down by putting her in such a bad matchup. So that was a bit OTT. But I also remember things like, because at the minute, there's no doubt about it, Misha Tate's coming across as the goodie and Ronda as the baddie. But at the end of the day, Brian Carey did say those things on Twitter. I also remember watching Misha Tate's fight with Kat Zingano. I mean, the fight was absolutely amazing. But after the first round, when she got up, she literally pushed her hand on Kat's face and held her down to the mat and went past. So there is another side to Misha Tate as well. There is that nasty side to Misha Tate as well. But watching this fight, and watching this season, and obviously we're only at 3 episodes in, and watching the way they are with each other, I can't help but root for Misha Tate, and I can't help but want Misha Tate to win when they fight. There's just something so likeable about Misha Tate at the minute. And the other thing's got to be said, they are both, well, whether this is just me or not, I don't know, but they are both so fucking sexy.
Oh,
that's
God.
just...
It is.
They are.
It's not just you, trust me. It's not just you.
They're just gorgeous, aren't they? I mean, like Misha Tate, she's just beautiful, and obviously, as is Ronda Rousey. And if you went up to a bar and grabbed their ass, they'd just punch your face in. Ronda Rousey just snap your arm off in a minute.
They could probably do more damage than the average, drunk guy. Way more damage than the average drunk guy. Not just grappling and him just with a single punch. I mean, Misha Tate said Ronda doesn't hit pads or something, but I guarantee you wouldn't want either of those chicks even slugging you in the arm. That shit would hurt.
Here's a funny story for us. It's a little bit off kilt, but I think you'll appreciate this story. On my Facebook friends list, I've got Rosie Sexton, of course. Rosie Sexton, I'm sure everyone knows who Rosie Sexton is. She's a UFC fighter. She's the first woman from the UK to fight in the UFC. She put a thing on her status the other day. She said, it's not about someone coming to my house to threaten me because she's chased their child up the street. So basically, somebody's been picking on her child. She's chased his child off. 2 guys have come knocking on the door saying, where's your husband? We want a word with him. And of course, Rosie steps out, says, have a word with me. What's your problem? And she basically confronted them both, and they both bottled it.
Yeah, they probably were asking for her husband because they didn't want to fight her.
Yeah, well, I don't think they realised who she was, and they didn't want to fight, get into a ruckus with this little girl. And I don't think they realised who she was. I think it'd be great if they'd gone home and Googled her name, and I think they'd have realised how lucky they were to get away without any injuries.
That's right.
I thought it was quite funny when I read the status.
Damn.
Next.
Oh, man. I don't know what to say about Rousey and Tate. They seem to be right now doing my head in. I can't stand either of them. They're not coming off as attractive. I don't know whether that's the thing that they're supposed to show them as human, as as fighters or whatever. But Rousey needs to take a chill pill. She's still a champion at the end of the day. Just because you can't get one person through. I mean, we've seen people like Rampage who only got one guy through. You don't need to cry about everything. If I was one of the people in the locker room having the coach upset and crying, that would not help me at all. You want to try and get mentally focused. You want somebody who's like, okay, we'll move on.
Mentally focused.
Next. Okay, whatever. It has been interesting, though, to see how girls... I mean, I don't really want to be sexist or anything. I'm going to try my best not to. It's interesting how girls have done the coaching. I mean, there's been the bitchy element. I don't really know what to say, but it's nice to see them fighting. I mean, the last fight the first girl fight we saw, we realised that who was it? It was Juliana.
It was Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen, taking on Shayna, the Queen of Spades, Baszler.
Yeah, Shayna, it really showed the difference between the guys and the girls. Shayna did not like striking at all. She knew technically what to do, but as soon another punch was coming her way, she's carrying up. Even in the first round when she was winning, even in the striking exchanges she's winning, she still was carrying up, and it's very different. I mean, you get the men who just go in there, like in the past you've had guys like Dennis Bermudez who just don't give a fuck. You can hit them with whatever and they're just going to try and implement their game on you. These girls, it's a different story. But it has been fun to watch. But these coaches, if I was in the house, I wouldn't want these two coaches personally.
Yeah, that was definitely a weird fight. I do think Shayna Baszler wins that fight most of the time, but she I don't know if you can call it octagon jitters, even though it's not a official event. It's just an exhibition, but still, she obviously was not fighting like she usually does, and she alluded to just as much, like, Jesus Christ, like that was her biggest problem. Not that she lost, but that she didn't put forth her best effort, which is a nightmare for any athlete. So yeah, definitely an interesting season. Oh yeah, I also wanted to say Juliana Pena is the female Leonard Garcia. The way she just sort of throws crazily with little to no technique but lands with power. She's the female Leonard Garcia, damn it. Let's move on. We are getting actually a little verbose, so instead of having this be two topics we talk about, I'm just going to condense it into one. Chael Sonnen going out there looking impressive as hell, submitting Shogun in round 1. Now he's matched up against Rashad Evans in the co-main event of UFC 167. I think it's hilarious how people give him no credit. I mean, in the last few years, he's only lost to the two greatest pound-for-pound fighters, maybe of all time, in Anderson Silva and John Jones, beaten everybody else. I looked it up. Before Sonnen, Shogun Rua had lost 5 times in the UFC. Every single person who beat Shogun was either awarded with a title shot or a title defense. Go and look it up. And Sonnen beats him in the first round with a guillotine, and people won't even put him in the top 5 of middleweight or the light heavyweight division, which I think is insane. He's fighting Rashad Evans. He at first was going to fight Vanderlei, which as a Chael fan, I love that stylistic matchup. Then he was going to fight Davis, and I was a little less pumped about that. And now he's going to fight Evans, and I'm a little less pumped about that. I think Evans poses the largest threat of any of those 3 men. Evans obviously having the best wrestling. Sort of looked flat in his last couple fights against Dan Henderson, where he won a decision, and Little Nog, and where he lost a decision. But if Evans tries to come out flat like he has in his last couple fights, he's not gonna be able to survive. I think Sonnen will drag him into deep water. Sonnen is a guy who never comes out flat. And I think it's going to be a real interesting fight. It's going to be close, but I see Sonnen winning a decision against Rashad Evans at UFC 167. What did y'all think of the Shogun fight, and what do you think of his chances against Rashad?
I'll be honest with you, I didn't think Sonnen would win the Shogun fight, and I certainly didn't think he'd win it like that. It was absolutely amazing. It was Sonnen rolling back the years. I mean, it was an absolutely fantastic performance. It was, for me, it was up there with his first fight of Anderson Silva, for level of performance. It was just unbelievable. It was really, really good. The match there, the fight I'd like to have seen the most out of the 3 guys you mentioned would have been Sonnen versus Vanderlei Silva, because I think that makes for the most exciting style of fight. Sonnen's exciting to watch. Silva's exciting to watch. I think I speak for most when I say I don't get excited for a Phil Davis fight. As good as he is, but I don't look forward to watching him fight. Rashad Evans is brilliant. I don't look forward to watching him fight. I think his style's pretty boring. He's winning with Henderson. So what? His fight against Little Nog. So what? They're just horrible fights. Evans is one of these guys that tends to win by neutralising people. I mean, John Jones is probably one of the most exciting fighters in the world at the minute. Even the fight with John Jones weren't great. He just seems to neutralise people. That's what Evans does. And I don't think the fight with Sonnen will be that exciting. I'm not overly excited for the Sonnen fight of Evans. It'll be a matter of Sonnen either taking Evans down or Evans using his takedown defence and winning by point boxing. And I think I don't want this to happen, but I think Evans will win by point boxing. It'll be stand and tag, and I know how Jay feels about stand and tag. I think Jay likes stand and tag a lot less than he likes lay and pray. I think Evans wins by stand and tag, but I hope I'm wrong.
A real interesting point we said about stand and tag recently. For those of you who don't understand what it is, it's basically where you've got two guys on the feet who are being as inactive as lay and pray. I spoke to Jake about this idea that whenever you've got lay and pray going on, the referee always stands them up. I'd like to see a way in which it's implemented in the opposite way round. If you've got stand and tag going on, it's like, well, you're the blue corner, so you get you've done nothing, you've been warned. Blue corner, you're on top. And just see the people's reaction then, once they've been warned, is, oh crap, I don't want to end up on the bottom. Or the other guy, like, oh yeah, I can hold off now. So then he's less aggressive, and one guy's just pouring it on him as a result of that. That's just what I'm thinking. But anyway, going back to the point about Chael Sonnen, I don't know how we ended up on that one. Chael Sonnen, it's been interesting. The fact he beat Shogun was outstanding. I think people did think he'd win. I mean, he was the favourite. I think Shogun's off his game a bit now, but to merely submit him shows you what a shallow of Shogun's former self is. Sonnen's looking really good right now. I don't like the fact he's still fighting at 205. I think 185 is still more interesting for him. You got that Belfort fight. You have, of course, the fight that I want to see, and I really hope we do eventually see this, is I want to see Jacare versus Sonnen, baby.
Yeah, Jacare Sonnen, that'd be a crazy fight. I thought Sonnen versus Shogun, it was good. Definitely, I thought Chael was going to win. Shogun's just not been himself. I mean, he almost got taken out by Brandon Vera. Come on, let's just take that for what it is. But I still didn't think Sonnen would get the sub. So, good on Sonnen. I still think that speaks more to where Shogun's at as opposed to where Sonnen's at. Just really not too interested in the Rashad Evans-Chael Sonnen fight. Kind of like Ray alluded to, Rashad Evans, I used to enjoy his fights. Ever since he got knocked out by Machida, though, I find he went straight back to that wrestling style, which he shouldn't have done. He should just have incorporated it a little more as opposed to abandoning his striking completely, because that's basically what he's done. We've seen that in just about every single fight he's had since he's come back from that Machida fight. He just tries to wrestle. He's gotten rocked by pretty much everybody he's fought. He doesn't want any part of the stand-up anymore these days. He's just trying to wrestle. He doesn't want to throw any more than he has to set up a shot. It's going to be very interesting. I think Sonnen could come in here and steal a decision away, unless Rashad decides to start fighting the way that got him to be the light heavyweight champion back in the day. That's really all I have for Chael Sonnen. I mean, what more can you say?
One more for the bad guy. And like I said, if you feel like you can make it out to Vegas on November 16th, we would love to have you, Patrick. Love to have you, Ray and Jay. Love to have you, the listener. That's going to be a hell of a time in Vegas in the middle of November. Let's move on. I don't know why I added a weird accent. November. Why did I say that? Okay, let's move on. GSP Hendricks. The last news topic we'll talk about until we get to the bonehead of the week. We've actually already gone an hour, so we'll have the recent fight announcements. We'll breeze through those quickly so we can talk about Jones Gus for a while. But really quickly, the last bit of news. GSP and Johnny Hendricks going through this big WADA controversy. If you're not aware, briefly, this is what happened. George St. Pierre said, "Hey, Johnny, let's do third-party drug testing outside of the UFC, and they'll test us through training, because I want to make sure both of us are clean. So let's do VADA testing. And Hendricks said, I don't know. And just so you don't think I'm crazy, there are 2 third-party drug testing companies. One's VADA with a V, one's WADA with a W. And Johnny says, GSP, you want to do VADA with a V, but you're related with them. You and VADA have a connection. So that's lose-lose, because A, you could test hot and they might say it was clean just because you have a connection with them. B, I could test clean and they might say I test hot just because you have a personal connection. So this other company, WADA with a W, let's do WADA. Let's do WADA testing. Let's do random testing. And George says, I do not agree to this. Which is really kind of interesting, because George is the one who in the first place wanted to do third-party drug testing. Him saying no to WADA testing, very, very sketchy. Johnny Hendricks makes a really good point, and he didn't want to do any of this to begin with, because it's lose-lose. If he tests hot, he's tainted. If GSP tests hot, then his championship, his win against GSP is tainted. So he's like, there's no point. Dana's against it. But the part about GSP not wanting to do random drug testing, to put it bluntly, I didn't think George St. Pierre did steroids, even though a lot of things point to it. You look at his gut, he kind of has the steroid gut, which, is kind of a belly that sticks out a little bit, but you still have, six-pack abs. He kind of has the steroid gut. I never really thought of him as a dirty fighter. He seems like a clean guy, but this whole thing has really kind of made me scratch my head. I was gonna ask about his legacy and his reputation, but we don't really have time to beat around the bush. Plainly put, Jay, do you think GSP has done or is doing steroids?
I don't think he has done. Simply put,
I think he's done HGH.
Ray?
I haven't really followed this whole VADA WADA story. I think it's hard to. I'd find it difficult to accuse somebody of doing. I knew they've done it. So for me, I have to say, because he's never been found dirty for anything that I'm aware of, I'd have to say, as far as I'm concerned, he's never done anything.
Definitely. And really quickly, what are your thoughts on the title fight? I think Johnny is a stylistic nightmare for George. I think he has the wrestling. I don't know necessarily if his wrestling is better than George St. Pierre's, but I think his wrestling is good enough to keep the fight standing, and that's where Johnny wants it. That's not where George wants it. Johnny lands one of those lefts, and the fight's over. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be in Vegas for 167 for Son and Evans. I think I'm going to see the welterweight belt change hands for the first time since GSP got it back from Matt the Terrace Serra. Really quickly, who wins GSP Hendricks?
I'm thinking GSP will jab his way to a finish, but not a finish to the 25 minutes. What I'm on about, GSP will never get a finish. Hendricks can always land that one bomb though, and in those first 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, it will be a real interesting fight. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm thinking GSP for now.
I'm thinking Hendricks by knockout. Can't wait to see it.
I've been saying for a while, before we even knew who Johnny Hendricks was, that the style to beat GSP would be somebody who's a wrestler, who can use his wrestling as a counter to stop the takedown, and who has knockout power. That's what you need. That's how you need to beat GSP. You need to be able to neutralise his wrestling, because that's the strongest point in his game. For me, that person is Johnny Hendricks. Hendricks can neutralise the wrestling, and he's got one-punch power to knock GSP out. So I'm saying Hendricks is going to be the new champion.
I agree with you. I think we're going to see that in Las Vegas, and we have a lot of recent fight announcements to talk about, but before that, it's time for the Bonehead.
Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do.
All right, mine was very simple. The boneheads of the week were two judges who make combat sports just look silly. CJ Ross, who judged the Floyd Mayweather Saul Canelo Alvarez fight, a draw, 114. Somehow didn't think Floyd did enough to win the fight. And Judge Chris Lee, who this past Saturday gave a score 49-46 John Jones over Alex the Mauler Gustafson. Judges like this, the sad thing is they'll be back to judge more title fights, even though Ross is taking a hiatus or something. Shitty judges will judge horrible cards, get no sort of punishment, and be back to judge more important fights and screw the sport up even more. Jay?
Mine's got to be Uriah Hall. I'm sure a few of you have seen that fight. It was Uriah Hall versus John Howard. Now, Uriah Hall's had the hype like nobody else. He's fighting a guy who's naturally a welterweight. He had an 11-inch reach advantage. I mean, John Jones has been able to win fights with his reach. This guy was praised as a killer. Chael Sonnen said he had all the makings of a top 5 guy. He can't even beat a welterweight. You guys know the score. You guys saw the fight, I hope. He was getting out-wrestled. He was getting out-struck. He was high-fiving. What the hell was going on there? He's praised as a killer on the show. Let's not forget that. And yet, he can't. He's got too many friends to finish a bum.
Not a lot of people know this about this fight, but Uriah Hall actually, by the end of the first round, had actually injured his hand. It was so red and stinging from all the I5s. That's why he couldn't fight. Thank you. I just thought that up on the spot. My bonehead of the week is Brandon Vera. You know, we've seen this guy burst onto the UFC scene years ago at heavyweight, and I don't know how many of you will remember this, but the guy was fantastic. I mean, he was blasting through people, including a spectacular knockout of, Frank Mir at the time. He had a few iffy fights, a close fight with Tim Sylvia, which he lost, but he broke his hand early on. Then he had a bad stoppage against Verdum. And the UFC kind of forced him to drop down to light heavyweight. And at light heavyweight, he's always looked slow and sluggish. His best performance at light heavyweight was probably against Shogun. And we finally see him make the return to UFC, to the heavyweight division. He's fighting against a guy who I don't think is that good, Ben Rothwell. And he spends the whole fight running away. I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't want to watch running. If I wanted to watch running, I'd watch athletics. I want to watch fighting. He literally spent fucking 12 minutes running from Ben Rothwell. It was absolutely pathetic. And then obviously when he did engage, he got knocked out, and I thought you should have run some more. But for me, if you don't get cut after a performance like that, I mean, the fight was absolutely awful. He didn't engage, and when he did, he just looked pathetic. So for me, and I don't know if other people agree or not, I want to see Brandon Vera. I don't want to watch this guy fight anymore. He's boring as fuck. But yeah, for me, bonehead of the week, Brandon Vera.
Solid choices so far, guys. For me, I got to go with Eddie Wineland. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more here coming up, but let's face it, this isn't exactly a spoiler at the moment. Eddie Wineland came out. Of course, he suffered a TKO loss this Saturday in the co-main event for the interim bantamweight championship. It turns out he's coming up and saying the fight was stopped prematurely. Dude, you were basically face down, getting blasted in the face. I got much love for Eddie Wineland. He is super legit. He was looking tough, and all 3 judges had it scored the first round for Eddie Wineland. So that's something interesting right there. But dude, you were finished, no question about it. What are you doing saying that was early? You're my pick for Bonehead of the Week.
Man, I agree with all those, but I gotta give it to Brandon Vera. Not for the reason that Ray said. I gotta give it to Brandon Vera. He was a bonehead for signing the contract to fight the greatest fighter of all time, Ben Rothwell. Fedor 2.0. The real White Anderson Silva. Ben Rothwell's the greatest fighter ever, and Brandon Vera's my bonehead for agreeing to fight him.
Yeah, Brandon Vera was an absolutely hilarious one. Yeah, I'm going to go with Brandon Vera. Man, we saw Ben Rothwell tear up like Anderson Silva style. He just got a bit confident. Brandon Vera, you heard, if you can, on one of the camera angles, I'll try and pull up a link for you guys. He said, "What the fuck is this kid doing?" And then 30 seconds later, he gets knocked out. How embarrassing, man.
I'm loving all this love for Ben Rothwell. My bonehead of the week is the high five man, Uriah Hall. I think, when you do a high five, that stings. So he put himself through a lot of pain in that fight. So for me, my high five bonehead of the week goes to Uriah Hall.
Well, again, fantastic choices, guys. All worthy candidates. I'm going to have to make it unanimous, or majority anyhow. I'm going with Brandon Vera as well. Dude went from a somebody to just a bum. I mean, he's just looking shot over the years. He's got nothing left in the tank. Can't cut it at light heavyweight or at heavyweight. Time to go to Bellator, kid. You're the bonehead of the week.
That's right. Go to Bellator. Was anyone else keeping score? Because I was busy talking to Jay about fake Twitter accounts on this Skype chat.
Three votes to Brandon Vera, 1 vote to Uriah Hall.
3 votes to Brandon Vera makes Brandon Vera's this week's Bonehead of the Week. Let's move on. Recent fight announcements. We're going to try and blaze through these. We got 30 minutes left, and we still got Guess That Tweet and Alexander Gustafsson versus John Jones to talk about. Dan Henderson versus Vitor Belfort 2 at UFC Fight Night 32, November 9th in Brazil. Who you got? I think Vitor has looked amazing. Whatever juice he's on is working, and I think he gets a victory here.
Yeah, I got to agree. I mean, Vitor, he's just jacked to the gills. He's getting another Brazil layup. It's in the bag.
I think this is a great fight. I remember their first fight in Pride. I'm going old school. I'm going Hendo to pull out the win.
I want to see Hendo pull it off, but I think the juice is going to have this one, boys. He's going to be all pumped up on the juice. He's going to be all full of rage. And who knows, we might see Rage take another KO victory somehow.
That's right. Moving on, Frank Mir and Alistair Overeem. This stacked UFC 167 card, November 16th in Vegas. Who you got? I think it's very simple. Overeem's biggest strength is Frank Mir's biggest weakness. It goes to the clinch. Overeem wins in the first round.
Overeem's got 3 minutes of fight in him. Can Mir last 3 minutes? I don't think he can. Overeem, first round within 3 minutes.
Man, I really hope Mir can pull this off because he's been looking pretty worse for wear recently, but so is Overeem. I really hope Mir can pull it off, so that's what I'm going to pick.
Oh, Overeem has to take this. Mir's just being brought in to get knocked unconscious again. It should happen, something like that.
Moving on, we got the Flyweight Championship at the Tough 18 finale, November 30th in Vegas. Demetrius Johnson taking on Joseph Benavidez for the second time. I got 2 words, Dwayne Ludwig. Joseph Benavidez finishes the fight via TKO in the 4th round.
That's what we want to see, isn't it? I hope that as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough fight to call. I mean, I think their last fight went to a split decision. Who knows? The Team Alpha Male training with Dwayne Ludwig, that might make the difference for Joby 1. Man, those flyweights, this is too tough to call. Flip a coin.
This is a great fight, and it's definitely the fight that needs to happen at flyweight. Benavidez has looked amazing since his last fight with Johnson. The way he's finishing off flyweights is ridiculous. Benavidez, like I think Jake said, Dwayne Ludwig, I don't know what he's done to these guys, but he's took these guys that were just pure wrestlers and weren't necessarily the best fighters to watch, and he's turned them into bloody killing machines. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Benavidez to win. I don't know if he'll get a stoppage or not, but I think Benavidez will be the new UFC flyweight champion.
Moving on, a welterweight match. Carlos Condit will be taking on Matt Brown. UFC on Fox 9, December 14th in Sacramento. Stylistically, this does not bode well for Carlos Condit. I think Brown is just the kind of fighter who takes him down. But Condit just fights with such a high IQ level. He's so cerebral. I think he gets in trouble early, but figures out a way to get past Matt Brown. Condit, even though he's number 3 at 170, I think he's one of the top 20 pound for pound guys in the world.
Condit is absolutely a G. This is just a crazy fight. I've loved Matt Brown since forever. He keeps just surprising the shit out of me. He keeps knocking out everybody, beating people I never thought he had any business beating, as much as I love the guy. But I do think Condit takes this one. He's just a little bit more the tactician, I dare say. Man, Matt Brown's come a long way, but Condit, he's just been at such a high level for so long. I gotta go with him.
Matt Brown has earned this fight. I mean, the guy is just smashing people. Like you've said, people he shouldn't be smashing. He's making them look like they shouldn't even be in the cage. It's absolutely ridiculous. What he did to Mike Pyle was ridiculous. Saying that, I think if Brown wins this fight, Brown should next fight for a title. That's I honestly believe that, because the win streak he's on is ridiculous. But he needs to face a top guy, and he's got that now. I think Condit will win, but Brown's going to make it a fight, and he's always in it because he's got ridiculous power.
I really hope Matt Brown brings it to him. I think Carlos Condit is more than ready for it. It'll be interesting to see how it plays off. I mean, this is another really good fight. I don't think people expected Matt Brown to get this higher level of fighter. I think we expected somebody maybe like Campman or something. But this is the fight that Brown, you ask for somebody in the top 5 and you get somebody in the top 5. Now he's just got to prove to himself that he can hang with them.
For sure. Moving on, a couple heavyweights at UFC Fight Night 33, December 21st in Brisbane. December 21st, that's right, in Brisbane. Mark Hunt taking on Bigfoot Silva. I think Silva, I don't know, I think he's decent, but at the same time, those wins against Alistair Overeem and Travis Brown were so fluky, and he got a title shot for him. I have Hunt, and I'll go with the polished kickboxer, Mark Hunt.
I think it's harsh to call his wins fluky. He did what he needed to do, and especially his win over Overeem. It's not Bigfoot's fault that Overeem's got no gas tank. Bigfoot was there ready to fight. He took the punishment and he finished him off. Saying that, Hunt has got a gas tank. I think Hunt hits harder than Overeem as well, and I think Hunt will put Silva away early.
I think Hunt is more used to standing, whereas Antonio Silva just seems to have given up on his grappling game. For that reason, I think that Silva walks into him, man. He's going to walk into some left hooks. Hunt is just going to be all over him just because Silva's a bit of an idiot at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm taking Hunt in this fight as well. Had never been super big on Antonio Silva. He's another guy I always pick against him. He always proves me wrong, but I'm definitely going with Hunt in this one. I mean, he did pretty fucking good against Junior Dos Santos, and we all know what he can do with those hands. We all know he can take a fuck of a shot. I'm picking Mark Hunt to just break that Easter Island head wide open.
And the final fight we'll talk about, another heavyweight fight, Josh Barnett and Travis Brown fighting at UFC 168, December 28th in Vegas. Who you got in that one? Brown will probably be favored, but honestly, I have Josh just because he's such a polished guy. Obviously the catch wrestling background, and this is a fight that after Verdum, the winner of this fight makes the most sense for title shots. So the winner of this fight may end up fighting the winner of Verdum, and whoever comes out on top of the heavyweight championship next month at UFC 166. Who do you guys got? Barnett, Brown?
I'm gonna say Brown. I think I want to see Barnett do it, but I think the reach and the power will be too much. I mean, if both men were equal in terms of height and reach and everything, I think it would be Barnett all day. But I think Brown will be able to keep him at bay. That's all I've got to say. I do have a spoiler about this fight. It's not at work or anything, but I'm not sure whether I can say it, so I will tell you in the lead up to the fight.
I want Travis to win, but I just think Barnett's going to be too much. Barnett's a very clever fighter. He'll come out aggressive. As soon as he needs to, he'll take Brown down, and then he'll submit Brown. He knew he could knock out Frank Mir, because Frank Mir's shown weakness in the past. Travis Brown, I think, if Barnett takes him down, I think Barnett's got a huge advantage on the ground. I've got my heart saying Brown, my head saying Barnett.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I'm going with Brown. Barnett, he's old school. He's been one of the top heavyweights out there for a long time. He could definitely come in. I mean, heck, Brown did lose to Congo, if I'm not mistaken. Either that or it was a draw. No, I think that was a draw. But, Barnett definitely has a great chance. Brown just seems to be that he's one of those next generation fighters. He's on the come up. He's hungry. He's coming off a win himself. So I'll go with Brown.
And yeah, that wraps up our fight announcement part of the podcast and brings us to our favorite part of the podcast. It's Guess That Tweet. Let me turn down this damn audio. It's Guess That Tweet, you motherfuckers. It's Ray, P-Money, Jay, and myself. Pretty easy. I read a tweet, give you 4 options. You gotta guess who it is. And we all know how to play, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Here we go. Tweet number 1. This dying cougar came up to me saying, "I love me some hot young things. How old are you, 16? I had to give her bad news. Yes, I am. So telling a cougar that, yes, indeed, he is 16 years old. It was, of course, a flyweight, but which flyweight was it? Was it Ian McCall, John Dodson, Joseph Benavidez, or John Moraga?
I'll go for John Dodson.
Ray, you're stealing my pick. I'm going Dodson as well.
Yeah, Dodson's the only playful character out of that bunch, let's be honest now.
So I got a 75% chance of getting that right, but it was indeed John Dodson. You guys read me like a book there. Everybody gets a point, except for me. I only get a point if none of you get it. All right, this one just a simple hashtag. Hashtag, you're still a sorry-ass bitch. Which lightweight was it? Gray Maynard, Diego Sanchez, Nate Diaz, or Gilbert Melendez?
I'm going to go with Nate Diaz.
Jesus, I could see any one of them saying that. Fucking Diego Sanchez.
I'm going to go with Gilbert Melendez.
You know, Diaz was the obvious answer. I was hoping that people would go away from Diaz just because that seems like such a Nate Diaz-ass tweet. But it was Nate Diaz. Hashtag, you're still a sorry-ass bitch. Jay gets the point, goes ahead. 2, and P-Money and Ray with 1. Third tweet. If you say pumpkin spice latte in the mirror 3 times, a white girl in yoga pants will show up and tell you all her favorite things about fall. Is it James Head, Nick Ring, Andrew Craig, or Conor McGregor?
I'm going to say, you said 4, I don't think, okay. Name the first 3 fighters, James Head, Andrew Craig, so basically all of Jay's favourite fighters.
Yeah, yep. James Head, Nick Ring, Andrew Craig, and Conor McGregor.
I'll go for Nick the Bender Ring.
Wow. Jesus Christ. I'll go with Andrew Craig.
I think you're throwing me off here because I don't know what the fuck you're all on about. I don't even like Conor McGregor. For that reason, you probably follow him and not the other 3, so I'm going to say Conor McGregor.
And therein lies where you made the mistake. It was Andrew Craig. So P-Money gets the point. P-Money gets the point, and he and Jay both have 2. Ray has 1. I have 0. I'm pretty much out of it. The next tweet.
I was going to say Conor McGregor, Rob. You know what the giveaway was? You used the term fall. We don't call it fall over this side of the world, so I knew it couldn't be Conor McGregor.
Do you call it autumn?
We call it autumn, yeah.
Oh, you guys are cute. All right, this next tweet is short and to the point, only 2 words, and those 2 words are Brazilian rump. That is Brazilian rump. And was it Conor McGregor, Dan Hardy, Andy Ogle, or Phil Harris?
I'm going to go with Conor McGregor. I know he's been touring a bit with Dana recently, so you might have gone to Brazil.
Oh, man, I'm going to go with the Phil Billy Harris.
As Phil Harris is fighting a Brazilian in the UK, I'm going to go for Phil Harris as well.
It was not Phil Harris. It was Conor McGregor, and Jay goes out with a lead of 3 points. And Jay, you start off first on this one, just so Patrick knows to pick a different guy than you. Ray is technically eliminated, as am I. Jay and P-Money, the only ones still in it. So Jay, you
We've
lead
said
off.
this before, though. We've said this before. I just want to clear up that before I've been accused, because if I go first and I get it right, then the other person has not had a chance to get it right. So, Patrick, I'm giving you the offer. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
Sir, you shall go first. I am no cheater.
Yeah, even if both of
me
you get it
neither.
right, Jay, you still win because you have a point advantage. All right, this tweet. Don't leave an ice pack on your leg too long, otherwise, ... and it's just a picture of just like this gnarly wound that just looks all gross, because he left an ice pack on his leg for way too long. It was a really gross picture. Was it?
Options?
Oh, that's that. This is the part where I give you the options. Was it Ryan Jimmo, Brandon Vera, Anthony Johnson, or James Tehuna?
Brandon Vera doesn't throw any strikes, judging by his last fight, so it can't be him. I can't think of anything funny to say about the others. So the last one was James Tehuna. It probably sounds like something he'd do.
All right, fuck. I'm going to need you to run those down one more time. Who do we got?
We got James Tehuna, Ryan Jimmo, Jimmy Manuwa, and Brandon Vera and Anthony Johnson.
Whew. Oh, Jesus. Well, you know what? As much as I love the guy, he was a great interview. Ray and I had the pleasure of speaking with him on the MMA Mental podcast. I think Ryan Jimmo's just dense enough to do something like that. So I'm going with Ryan Jimmo. Love you, buddy.
And I'm sorry, it's not Ryan Jimmo. Jay is a cheater, and it was James Tehuna. Jay wins this edition. James,
have you seen? Oh my god, you guys need to sort this out. Have you seen Anthony Rumble Johnson's tweets before? They're all like one-word stuff.
But yo, let's read this overtime tweet and get into 165. We only have 15 minutes left in the show. Bucket list: get smacked in the face by a lemur. Check. Was that Mendez, Lamas, Lentz, or Swanson? Which featherweight, Ray?
Read that again, sorry.
Bucket list: get smacked in the face by a lemur. Check. Chad Mendez, Ricardo Lamas, Nick Lentz, Cub Swanson.
So Ben Saunders isn't an option.
No, it's not. He's too busy getting viciously knocked out by Diego Lima. That was clever.
Okay, I'll go for Chad Mendez.
I'm thinking it's either Lamas or Swanson because they both have animals in their names. Oh, I'm going to go with Lamas.
Then I'll go with Swanson.
And more proof that Jay is a cheater. The Cub got smacked by a lemur, and it was Cub Swanson. Jay really showing his cheating skills here on Guess That Tweet. No, that was a great performance. Let's move on. We don't have much time. We're skipping the prelims because let's face it. We don't have time for that shit, damn it. And we're going to condense the first three fights all into one topic. Give me your thoughts on the first three fights. Khabib Nurmagomedov defeats Pat Healy via unanimous decision. Healy's first loss in 3 years. Had a Hughes Trigg-esque slam running him across the cage. Francis Carmont defeating Costa Philippou also by unanimous decision. And Brendan Schaub Darce choking Matt Mitrione to sleep 4 minutes into the first round. What were your thoughts on those fights, Ray?
Khabib looked absolutely amazing. I mean, he is just the future of that division. I'm pretty sure Jay's a fan of Khabib as well. He's a fantastic fighter. I, for one, look forward to seeing Khabib fight. His performance over Healy was great. The slam was epic. Moving on to the next fight, it was a great win for Francis Carmont. But who on earth gets excited to watch a Francis Carmont fight? I mean, that guy, Jesus Christ, he's boring. I mean, he really is. I find him really tedious to watch. I really thought Philippou would win, but Philippou just looked awful. Whether it's anything to do with the fact he's not training with Ray Longo and Matt Serrano, I don't know, but he just looked absolutely terrible. As for Brendan Schaub, Matt Mitrione, huge win for Brendan. I mean, we've seen Brendan in the past, and he's looked really dodgy. He had a recent win over Levi Johnson, but the fight was awful. He literally just wrestle raped him. But yeah, the submission over Matt Mitrione was great. I love the respect shown by Matt Mitrione afterwards as well. I met Matt Mitrione in Sweden, and he's such a nice guy. But the way he went up to Brendan, shake his hand, and they were hugging, and well done. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, but I was really impressed with Brendan. Really impressed with Khabib. I can't bother to watch Francis Calmont fight again.
He was impressive when we went to Sweden, man. But Khabib was awesome. I'm a massive fan of Khabib. I think it's the guy when he first came into the UFC, the guy who set my tone of this is it. I'm never picking against the Russian again. He finally got matched up with a wrestler and he dealt with it well. That's what we needed to see. And he's got a tough chin on him and he just drops bombs, goes in there, keeps it standard. And if he doesn't like standing with you, he'll find a way to take you down. This guy, that's going to be a fight to watch. Pettis versus Khabib. Carmont fight, I had money on it. A lot of people did not think it was a good fight. Philippou went from training with the beasts, the best in the world, Chris Weidman, Matt Serra, Ray Longo, all of them teaching him everything. He had found his distance. Nobody could hang with him. Nobody could take him down. Then Chris Weidman gets the belt and he says, okay, well, I don't want to train with the champion anymore. So he goes to a place, I think it was called Baltimore Kickboxing Academy. The beasts over there who nobody's ever heard of. What the hell is he doing? Why did he go there? Nobody really knows. The Philippou's best days were over as soon as he quit that camp. He wasn't going to learn anything. So that's it. Carmont training at TriStar. It was him all day. I had a chat to Jake about it, who also didn't. He said it was a bad idea putting money on Carmont. We saw the fight. Carmont went every takedown he got. Philippou looked like he had never defended a takedown in his life or never even seen a takedown. It was an awesome fight when you had money on it going the right way. But yeah, Philippou's going to be a bum until he goes back to Sarah.
Patrick, what did you think of those first three fights?
What?
Patrick got so... Yeah, I think your Skype's cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, terribly sorry. Well, for me, I think Pat Healy had the better walkout music, but he got a stool pushed in by Khabib. It was pretty much how I think we all expected it to go. I didn't think Khabib would have as easy of a time. I mean, it wasn't a cakewalk, but he did pretty much dominate that fight. I didn't think it would be as easy because Pat Healy's a fucking huge lightweight. Compared to Khabib, who's a huge lightweight in his own right. Good fight, though. He beat the fuck out of Pat Healy. Francis Carmont versus Costa Philippou, that was such bullshit. The only thing more bullshit than that fight was the UFC saying they were fucking trying to sell Francis Carmont as a striker. If you go and rewatch the pay-per-view, they're talking about what a fucking striker Francis Carmont is. I've never seen him throwing a strike in the UFC. I will fucking swear by that. He is the most boring lay-and-pray wrestler ever. I was praying to God he would get knocked out. It didn't happen. Unlike Jay, I didn't put money on it. So I was just completely bummed from beginning to end. Total waste of time. I don't know how that got on the fucking main card pay-per-view. And then as for Mitrione Schaub, I found that just not too exciting for me. I don't know. I want to see heavyweights knock each other out. Maybe that's just me making the meathead admission, That's what I wanted to see. And I wanted to see Mitrione Schaub. That really is what I wanted to see happen. It was a great finish, though, by Schaub. I can't hate. I got to give him his credit. And I do think he got robbed of submission of the night.
Definitely, and that transitions us well to the submission. Or wait, actually, that wasn't sub of the night. Who won sub of the night? Just out of curiosity.
Gagnon,
yeah, that's right. I think in what was the KO of the night, Renan Barão defeats Eddie Wineland in the second round. Wineland came out looking great. His footwork the first round was excellent, but in the second round, Barão lands a spinning back kick to the head and follows it up with some strikes, finishes the fight. Let's try and keep it pretty brief just so we have time to talk about Jones Gustafsson. What'd you think of the fight? Let's not even bother talking about his next opponent. Probably will be Dominic Cruz. If not, it'll probably be against the winner of Uriah Faber and Michael McDonald for the real championship, because Dana said no more bantamweight interim championships. What did you guys think of that? Patrick, I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought what I was looking at had Ray up next. I must be looking at an old one. I thought it was a good fight. I mean, I hate that I brought it up in the Bonehead earlier, but Wineland looked good. He looked strong in there at 135. He looked well prepared. But, man, he just ducked right into the spinning back kick, right? It actually looked like it kind of deflected off his arm and then still kind of bounced into the chin. But Brow was throwing that shit with such force. It was a good fight. I mean, that's what you like to see out of a title fight. It was good. They were scrapping, exchanging in each other's faces. I liked it.
Henan Brow looks like an absolute beast at 135. I mean, we've all seen him rise through the division, and he doesn't just beat opponents; he finishes opponents, and he doesn't just finish your average opponents. He's finishing the best of the best. I mean, he finished Pickett, he finished McDonald, and of course now he's finished Wineland. The only guy he hasn't finished, I think, in recent history is Uriah Faber, and obviously Uriah Faber is an absolute beast. It was never going to go any other way, really. Brow was always going to win that fight. It was just a matter of how, whether it was going to be knockout or submission. I think Brow would finish Cruz as well, personally. I think especially if Cruz comes back and fights Brow straight away, there's no way he'll be able to hang with Brow.
Brow's hitting the level as... I don't know if you guys caught the post-fight, but Dana was referring to Brow as Floyd Mayweather-esque. He's been undefeated for 8 years, 29, not even 29 anymore. It's not even 29 in a row. It's now 31 in a row. It's been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, as Patrick said, it was going to the body, but going to the chest, but ducking into it. Oh man, that was a mistake. It's weird that Wineland was protesting the early stoppage. I went away and rewatched, and it was a bit early. It is Eve Levine after all, so you can see where he's coming from, but the rematch would go the exact same way. It's just depending on whether he went for the choke or finished it up with some more punches. We will never know, but Barao won that fight, and if Barao can win Cruz, he could very easily be writing himself into the pound for pound number 1 or 2 spot in my eyes.
And that brings us to the most talked about topic of the week, Jones Gustafsson, in what was an absolute dogfight. Alexander Gustafsson impressed the shit out of all of us. Not just standing up, he not only was able to stand up and fight John Jones, which we didn't know if he was going to be able to do. Maybe the story of the fight was that not only did Alexander fend off the John Jones takedown, Jones was only 1 for 12, and that one Gustafsson got right back up. Gustafsson took down John Jones, the first time Jones had ever been taken down in his career. A lot of people were dismayed, calling it a robbery when Jones won the unanimous decision, 48-47, 48-47, 49-46. I scored it 48-48. I thought it was really close. It was too close to call a robbery. I think Gustafsson obviously won rounds 1 and 3 in my eyes. I think Jones won 4 and 5. Jones stole that fourth round. Honestly, the first time around, I gave the fourth round a 10-8, but upon watching it again, I changed that to a 10-9, which changed it from 48-47 Jones to a 48-48. I gave the second round a 10-10. Before we talk about the rematch, a potential rematch, what did you think of the fight? How did you score it? It was the greatest title fight we've seen in a long time. Jay, what did you think?
It was indeed the greatest title fight since I can recall, really. I mean, it was off the chart. Everything you want from an MMA fight, surprises. There's guys coming in who have looked immortal versus guys you're not really too sold on, and they both come out and they just go to war. Fantastic. I scored it 48-48. I don't know whether we're going to get to that part, but yeah, I scored it 48-48. First round was Gustafsson, next round 10-10, next round Gustafsson, last 2 were Jones. The fourth round was controversial. The third round he could have scored to Jones, but it was just a hell of a fight, and whether they give him Glover next or they give him Gustafsson again, I'm down with whatever. I just want to see Jones get tested. We've seen it now. You've got to respect him, but I still don't like him.
Yeah, this was just sick, amazing fight. I had Gustafsson winning this the first 3. Really, if you watch that fight, I just went back and watched this fight a few minutes before we started the show. Gustafsson was checking almost every kick from the beginning of that fight. All those kicks he was checking, except for the little heel stomp kicks on the knee, which really were just so weak. The head kicks were all, again, mostly checked. The spinning kicks were, if they connected, generally speaking, he was moving out of the way. They weren't flush connections. I mean, to me, Gustafsson landed the cleaner strikes. He stopped more takedowns. They were equal in the amount of takedowns that they both gotten. To me, I think he obviously had John Jones more hurt. When I go back and watch, I mean, a lot of those elbows, granted the elbow in the 4th round connected, the elbow in the 3rd round didn't even connect. A lot of the head kicks that quote unquote did connect were like his fucking big toe. If you go back and watch the replay, his big toe grazed him, and it's probably getting scored as a significant strike. Go look at the fucking hospital pic. John Jones is in a gurney. I don't know what more you have to say. I mean, I thought Gustafsson had that, and I can give you the even more breakdown, in-depth detail on how and why, but I don't think we have time for all that.
The fight was absolutely amazing. I mean, I scored it. I had it tied going into that 5th round. I had it 2 rounds each into that 5th round, and I could in the 5th round. I felt that Jones come on stronger, so I scored it to Jones. But it was one of those fights where if it had gone either way, I don't think either guy deserved. Another guy really deserved to lose the fight, and I think because we all had Jones as such a heavy favourite, we were all that so much more impressed with Gustafsson because it's the first time we've really seen Jones push to the limit. I mean, his eyes and his lips and his I mean, he just looked like he'd been smashed to smithereens. It was just unbelievable. And Gustafsson showed a whole new level to his game. I didn't know he had that in him. I really didn't. I was really, really impressed. I thought the difference would be the wrestling. I thought Jones would be able to take Gustafsson down. I knew he'd be a real threat on the striking, but I didn't realise he'd be able to shut Jones's wrestling down and in turn be able to take Jones down. That was just ridiculous. With regards to what happens next, I don't mind seeing either fight. If Jones fights Glover next, I think Gustafsson should get another top light heavyweight, maybe the winner of Evans and Sonnen. And if he beats the winner of that, then he gets another title fight. But I definitely want to see Gus get it. But Gus is young; he's going to fight for the title numerous times in the future, and possibly be a champion in the future as well, because he's just shown how good he is.
And we'll send it around the roundtable one last time before we close the show out. Should there be a rematch? Thoughts on a potential rematch? There are currently 3 suitors for being a challenger to John Jones, and that's a Gustafsson rematch, Glover Teixeira, and obviously Daniel Cormier, if he's able to make it past Roy Nelson and does indeed move down to 205. I think there should definitely be a rematch. In John Jones's 7 title fights, we've never, ever seen anybody challenge him like Gustafsson did, and I think it was close enough to warrant a rematch, almost like Lyoto Shogun won. And yeah, thoughts on it? Jones will be favored. I'll probably lean toward Jones, but man, what a dog fight. Patrick, you mentioned it. If it wasn't for that 4th round spinning elbow Jones landed, he may not be the champion now. We might be looking at a new champ. But if they fight again, I don't know. I just feel like in that fight, I feel like Jones came out looking a little flat. I think Gustafsson drew up an amazing game plan for him. And I don't think it'll be a Jones domination. I think it'll be another close fight. But, Jones is fighting with Jackson, and they're a pretty good game planning team as well. That fight really interests me a lot more than the Glover fight. Not as much as the Cormier fight, but we still got to see Cormier beat Roy Nelson and get past the curse of Frank Mir. Jay, should there be a rematch, and thoughts on a potential rematch before we close the show out?
There are other guys on the horizon. Cormier will have to. I think he has to take he's got to take a testing of the waters. Maybe someone like Phil Davis. That fight might work out perfectly. Glover's also there, but no, I'm going to say for now, I'm going to say Gustafsson probably should get the shot, and in the meantime, have. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to say give Gustafsson the current rematch. Give Phil Davis versus Glover, make that fight, and then make when you're testing the waters, maybe make it even Cormier versus Rashad Sonnen winner. That's my feeling.
I say do the rematch. I say it's definitely good to do immediately. John Jones, his whole thing has been the reach and the leverage. When you look, and people are so befuddled as to why Jones couldn't take Gustafsson down, it's because all of Jones's takedowns, or most of it, it's all trips, throws, tosses, stuff like that. He doesn't always shoot your standard double legs or single legs. He's using those arms and legs as leverage in his trips, which works against the guys who are 6 foot to 6'2", who don't have the crazy wingspan, because when he sets them up for a judo trip, they literally don't have the range of motion to get out of the way. It's impossible for them to get out of the way. With Gustafsson, he's got the frame that makes that impossible. He doesn't have that same leverage advantage that he does against every other opponent, and that's what we saw in the Gustafsson fight. He used the footwork, stayed out of the way of those trips and throws, and the wrestling was dead even, and he was boxing him up on the feet. Fuck, I think, and just after what happened to Jones, I mean, it's one of those things. I got to pick Jones because he's still the champion, but I think Gustafsson will win a second time.
If they did do an immediate rematch, I would be excited, and I wouldn't begrudge Gustafsson because he's proved that he certainly deserves to be in there. But if I was choosing, I would go for John Jones versus Glover Teixeira, and then put Gustafsson in with a winner of Shogun and Evans. Phil Davis obviously right up there after his win with Chida. I'm not sold on Cormier yet. I mean, Cormier has looked great up to his win over Josh Barnett, but then his last 2 fights have been awful. So I need to see an improvement from Cormier before I'm interested in watching him fight for the title. Like I said before, it's not necessarily who you beat, it's how you beat them. And so far, his win over Barnett was great. His win over Bigfoot was great. His win over Frank Mir and the no-name guy he faced in his last fight at Strikeforce, they were boring fights.
That's right, and that does bring us to the end of the show. It's awesome being back with my fellow roundtablists, Ray J and P Money. Ray, you want to give us those plugs again? Tell them where to find MMA Mental.
Yeah, check out the MMA Mental podcast. You can go to our YouTube channel or go to the website www.mmamental.com. Also do a week. We do an MMA Mental Roundtable where we break down the latest UFC cards, and that includes UFC middleweight Luke Barnett as well. So check that out.
Jay, follow him on Twitter at J_Jeans. Anything else you want to throw out there? Any shout outs to any special girls with the initials EW?
Yeah, go on then. I'll give a shout out to, I don't know, I can't think of anything funny with that one, but yeah, go on then. Emma Watson, yeah, go on. We'll make that a thing, apparently. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys, and I'm glad to be back. I hope everybody's enjoyed the show, and I have, and I guess I'll talk to you all next week.
That's right. And Patrick, what the fuck you got to say for yourself, cocksucker?
You motherfuckers. I gotta say, follow your boy P Money. It's at Sweet Pappy Jones. I was gonna go with Sweet Dick Daddy Jones, but I thought Sweet Pappy Jones was a little better for the kids. You know, get some of those under 18 followers. Wait a second, no, fuck that. That's 18 and up. 18 and up. Not safe for work. Go fuck yourselves, cocksuckers. Come back for the roundtable.
That's right. Thanks so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter at The MMA Podcast or visit TheMMAPodcast.com. We love the shit out of you. We'll see you Friday for the MMA Podcast and next week for the next MMA Roundtable. Until then, we gone.